Are you currently living in the United States? Have you caught a terminal case of the gay? Let me spill the tea, hunty. Best you have 6 months to slay before you get slayed. Do you prefer having LGBT rights? Then you might be a narcissist. Bum, 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 bum. We all know there's not a single character trait worse than being selfish, and there isn't a more surefire sign of narcissism than being concerned with your own civil rights. According to this book I read in college, everyone is always being super sincere when they accuse other people of being narcissists. Obviously, that's the whole point, isn't it? Sarah Zed just did an entire episode explaining that everyone's obsession with making selfish monsters out of anyone who disagrees with them on the internet is the truest, surest sign of a healthy and kind internet community. And the internet, we all know, is just always so sweet. The very sweet, nuanced people of the internet are, of course, the most hinged when it comes time to talk about politics. Actual hinged people have this great online advice that you shouldn't feed the trolls. I recently put out a short-ish video about the small segment of the left that is anti-voting and who pretend to not understand that there are two possible outcomes for the 2024 presidential election in the United States: a Trump administration or a Harris administration. Some of them pretend one of the third-party candidates polling near zero can win. Nope. Some of them pretend a revolution is going to happen that obviously isn't going to happen, and that they make no effort to bring about either besides being rude to people on the internet. Because, revolutions happen when you're a dick. Now, you could be uncharitable and come to the conclusion that these types aren't actually political leftists who care about anything, but are instead only concerned with their ability to be assholes online. A handful of the commenters on that video claimed that a Trump presidency and its harms to LGBT people in this country don't matter. It would only be a slight difference. Now, do I have to spend time going over how that's a stupid assertion and really bad faith? I assume not. I have a video detailing how Project 2025 wants to criminalize trans existence. In my video over the GOP's entrenched homophobia, I talked about the Conservative Party's support for conversion therapy. There's been this concerning attitude since October 7th, 2023 amongst some members of the left that LGBT rights are unimportant, bourgeois, marginal, and selfish to care about. Why is this? I think it's time to do a little bit of a deep dive and see if I can diagnose myself with narcissism in a video essay for the horrible sin of caring about my own civil rights. DSMR 1. Grandiose minimization. Let's briefly talk Chappell Rowan. I know, boo, boo. Wasn't that just a fantastically horrible time to be on the internet? Long story short, Chappell Rowan took to TikTok to complain about the 2024 election, the suffering of the Palestinian people, and the pressure that is always put on celebrities to talk about their politics. I have thought on it all, and I have opinions, but I don't think it's that interesting, and it's been played out to death online in a way that quickly devolved into stan wars and people of every persuasion using Chappell as an excuse to shout at other people on the internet to get in asshole points from other assholes on the internet who happen to agree with them in that moment in time. In response to Chappell's comments, specifically a vague sort of both sidesism she did, drag queen Kiki Ballchains, excellent name, tweeted out, "One side wants to ban drag, and it's not the Democrats. Hope this helps." Kiki was, of course, correct. Republicans, by and large, in the United States do not care about the First Amendment, and they are sexist and queerphobic. Because of that wonderful concoctive mix, they would like to ban drag. Consider Texas, where a Trump-appointed federal judge, Matthew Kaczmarek, ruled that drag performance is not covered by the First Amendment in a ruling that appears to completely butcher the First Amendment because, as demonstrated by the Trump-appointed judges in the 11th Circuit, who ruled conversion therapy bans are unconstitutional violations of free speech, conservatives don't seem to care at all about the First Amendment and will invent novel or already debunked legal theories so long as they get to harm queer people and queer expression. Unfortunately for Kiki, she committed a few cardinal internet sins. First, she used one of the most annoying phrases on the web. Hope this helps. Hope that helps. Everyone hates it, but also everyone loves to use it because it's such a nicely condescending phrase. Like, it is delicious and infuriating at the same time. Second, she commented on a thing where a celebrity is involved. I don't care if people critique or defend famous people. I do get somewhat concerned when the level of critique starts to turn into a dog pile, but fandom stands and the like tend to be quite vicious all the time over anything. Watch how very nice everyone is going to be in the run-up to the Grammys this year. You've got Billie, Ariana, Beyonce, and Taylor stans. They're going to be very, very cruel to each other over which celebrity should win an award in a subjective art form. It's not going to have any right answers, but they'll be sure to tell you to off yourself if you give the one they don't want. Third, Kiki made the suggestion to online leftists that Republicans are worse than the Democrats. And fourth, perhaps her biggest sin, she suggested that queer rights are important and that the differences between the two parties over those rights are also important. For these four deadly sins, Twitter went X-rated in its holy hatred and white-hot discourse. She had to go private and eventually deleted the tweet due to all of the harassment that she was getting for pointing out that the GOP winning would cause harm. Because I happened to quote tweet Kiki at one point to talk about my concerns with all the homophobia and transphobia being blasted out by supposed leftists in her mentions, I can still see all of the quote tweets that people made. Over and over, people call drag dress up. That's all it is to them. It's silly little games that are unimportant. Who cares if they're banned? Who cares if drag bans will be used to criminalize trans existence? There is a genocide going on. And if banning drag stops that, we'll take a drag ban. Oh, hold on. I'm getting a call. Hello? Oh, that option isn't on the table? All of these people are just expressing fantasies of banning drag? There isn't an anti-drag, anti-Israel candidate running, and all of those quote tweets were probably in bad faith? Oh, they hung up. What a weird call. So we'll get to the fiction and lies about this in the next section. What I want to focus in on is the minimization of drag, of transness, or gayness. In response to Kiki and other people, one popular tweet I saw going around read, "Both sides are garbage, but with one you can sit at a drag queen store hour while she sends weapons to Israel. So you rainbow capitalist girl power, yeah, slay faggots, get to sleep easy." Did you notice the slur there? I don't like it when you worry about gay rights, so let me call you a faggot. This will prove that I am progressive and not a homophobe. Good job. The minimization strikes white hot here. Back in 2016, this liberals only care about going to brunch in peace sort of thing was a line of attack certain people on the left use and have continued to use because they think it's a good dig somehow. And they use it especially when liberals correctly point out that the Democrats are better than the Republicans, and it is better when things are better. I know that's insane logic on my part. Better equals better. Mind blown. I'll talk about the use of slurs by supposedly leftist people in a later section, and I have a whole video going over that phenomenon. But let's start with rainbow capitalism. The suggestion here is that by having Harris lose and letting the Republicans come in and destroy gay rights, capitalism will somehow fall. They'll do a revolution, I guess. Only, no. They won't. We don't have to pretend like the cosplay revolutionaries are actually revolutionaries who are going to do anything. They're not serious. So then, what happens? Well, we get discourse every single year about how corporations supporting Pride during Pride Month is a bad thing that shouldn't be embraced. I understand the critique here, but let's suppose corporations are getting shat on by the left for expressing queer support and by the right for not hating gay people. In that case, they might make the calculated cold-hard move to stop celebrating Pride or supporting queer initiatives and nonprofits. Project 2025 advisory group the 1792 Exchange swoops in crying fiduciary malpractice for donating to the Trevor Project or supporting non-discrimination laws. Companies then start to pull away from embracing queer rights. On one hand, this does somewhat prove the premise rainbow capitalism. Their messaging will go where it seems like it'll get them positive press and therefore dollars. On the other hand, the backing away showcases to the general public, the people that you need for politics, a backslide in general support for queer people. If every retail store got to get rid of their rainbow collection in June, people would see that as a declaration that Pride Month no longer matters, really. Less support, even greedy-minded support, is less support. That makes it easier for conservatives to harm queer people. I promise I do understand the underlying critiques of the rainbow capitalism labels, but its reversal doesn't seem to be resulting in a better world like these online LARPists want us to believe. Instead, it results in backsliding on queer rights, queer acceptance, support, and donations to queer-supporting charities like the Trevor Project. How about the sentiment in this tweet that, oh no, poor you, they'll ban drag brunches, aww. The attempted ban in Tennessee redefined adult cabaret to include male or female impersonators. What do transphobes consider trans people? When Magdalene Burns called trans women blackface actors, the same comparison, by the way, the university president in Texas used to describe drag shows before banning them and got us that whole lawsuit, do you think they give a shit that drag queens and trans women are not synonymous? No, of course they don't. And as far as they're concerned, trans men are drag kings. Trans women, to them, are drag queens. Drag bans are attempts at criminalizing trans people being in public or being around children just in general. This is not an instance of, oh no, you poor liberals won't get to go to drag brunch. It's, under the surface, very clear, oh my god, trans people are being arrested for being in public. It's all drag performers will lose their livelihoods. It's holy shit, they've gendered clothes, so now a woman in pants is a male impersonator. In a sexist society where gender roles exist in any way, shape, or form, restrictions on drag will inevitably result in restrictions on gender expression of both cis and trans people. Yes, such laws would obviously be unconstitutional. But when Trump's appointed judges have a habit of making up their own ideas about the First Amendment in order to harm LGBT people, why should we go in with the idea that Republican attacks on queer people would be struck down by the courts? Okay, but let's think about drag itself. A drag ban would not merely stop drag brunch. It would require an authoritarian crackdown on art as a whole. Think of all the times Bugs Bunny goes in drag. Think of all of the musicals where drag plays an important part. Female impersonation is even part of the Iliad. It would touch classics in literature. Mulan technically involves male impersonation. A drag ban would necessarily involve bans on showing that film. It sounds like this reduction to brunch is merely an attempt to say queer whites do not matter, because these people do not care about LGBT rights. Twitch streamer Hayat, or Hey XTT, tweeted out, "Sorry guys, the global south has to be slaughtered en masse so that a white queer in Bushwick can have drag trivia." We've diversified a bit by going from brunch to trivia, to queer. If only someone said all this concern with gay rights was just about sissies who want drag bingo, we'd have like two holy trinities. Following the war crimes Hamas committed on October 7th and the war crimes Israel committed afterwards, various identity-based groups came together to declare support for the Palestinian people. This included Queers for Palestine. Now, of course, hardcore supporters of the current Israeli government and/or anti-Palestinian racists came out of the woodwork to ridicule Queers for Palestine. They did this by pointing to Hamas's anti-queer policies and the policies of surrounding Islamic theocracies. The obvious incorrect response that many people went with is being a bigot does not mean that you are deserving of death. Others, though, like Stancy Potenza, decided to go with, okay, but there are homophobes in the US. Let me equate the two. They're all the same. It is not illegal to be gay in the United States. You can get married in the United States. You can adopt children in the US. You can transition in the US. There are homophobes here. There are homophobic laws here. There are transphobes and transphobic laws. There is a lot of work to be done. And homophobic Palestinians do not deserve to be murdered because no one deserves to be murdered. Famously, not reactionary, totally based leftist shoe-on-head went with, "Whoa, you're telling me a predominantly Muslim country in the Middle East doesn't support gay marriage? That's crazy. I bet they don't even celebrate Asexual Awareness Week." I agree with the broad idea. Being homophobic does not make you deserving of death. What Shu did here, though, was minimize gay rights into marriage and awareness weeks. You know who thinks gay marriage is bad and trivial and a distraction from leftist politics? Prolific anti-gay rights bigot Yasmin Nair, writer for Current Affairs. You may remember her from her Twitter meltdown after she implied Pete and Chasten Buttigieg picked their adopted children from a catalog, including claiming that they used a surrogate when they had not used a surrogate. According to her and Current Affairs, queer rights are trivial and perhaps even bad, because they aren't going to go around causing the downfall of capitalism, the destruction of America, and their blessed, glorious revolution. In the comments on a video I made about the small anti-voting segment of the left, someone said that the differences to domestic civil rights in the US under a Trump presidency would be marginal. They remain adamant about that wording when I'm pointing out the vast differences between Trump and Harris and the harms that Trump will probably inflict. It's only marginally worse when homophobic parents, guardians, priests, and family members can subject their gay children to the psychological, spiritual, and emotional torture that is conversion therapy. It's only marginally worse to put forward a national Don't Say Gay bill. It would only be marginally worse to ban drag and gender nonconforming expression. Allowing discrimination against LGBT people in healthcare and employment would only make things marginally worse. It's just such a small difference. Project 2025 is sponsored by groups that want gay sex criminalized and any and all discrimination against LGBT people to be legal, including denying someone a hotel room. It's only marginally different. Here's the question. Are these people minimizing the gay rights and trans rights movements and struggles because they think it serves them rhetorically and politically, or because they actually think LGBT rights don't matter? Or am I just a narcissist for thinking these things matter at all? Let me check Twitter real quick. Okay, caring about queer rights actually makes me an uncaring fascist. Oops. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to say hi, comment, subscribe, share the video if you feel like sharing it. You can also join me over on Patreon, where you can get these videos early. You can get access to all of the shorter, quick videos that I do. And by shorter and quick, I mean approximately 10 to 15 minutes long, sometimes 5. You'll also get behind the scenes looks at all of my artistic projects, like for instance, my upcoming poetry collection, A Museum of Art and Eggs, out on February 27th. You can also go and purchase my poetry collection, Butterfly Snuff, out now on Amazon. You can get it in hardback, paperback, and ebook. Follow me over on social media. I am a bit unhinged and a bit annoying, so good luck with that. Follow my musicals. There's Mimical the Meme musical, The Drummer Boy, which is about a school shooting, and Three Wolves Howling, which is my gay TYA fantasy wolf musical. Enjoy the rest of this video, and I will see you at the next one. Peace! DSMR 2. Rationalizing avoidance. If I have learned anything whilst dealing with my own traumas and mental health issues, it is that when minimizing things doesn't make them go away, the next thing you've got to do is attack them with cold logic, baby. That always works. Rationalization can never be an actual symptom of mental illness, surely. Duh, it's just logic. So let's look at the logic here. In the last section, people talked about how they would gladly exchange gay rights for an end to Israel's cruelty against the Palestinian people. That's how professional do-nothing bad-faith actress Brianna Joy Gray frames it. She tweeted out, "Because supporting genocide is worse than banning drag, this doesn't have to be either or. Dems would be more popular and electable if they imposed a weapons embargo on Israel and protected LGBT rights / drag, etc. They're choosing to make you choose." Is that an option in November? Let me check my notes. No. There is not an anti-gay, pro-Palestinian candidate. It is not an option, Brianna. You aren't being asked to choose between gay rights and the Palestinian people. You're being asked whether gay rights get to continue. That's the end of that question. This is just people complaining about having to consider the health and well-being of queer people, of their fellow citizens. What are the options in the 2024 presidential election? Well, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump could win the presidency. Could Jill Stein win? Nope. Despite what Joy Gray wants to pretend to believe, her polling shows she doesn't have near enough support to win, and of time of recording, there is not enough time for a serious candidate to make the necessary rise in the polls, so there is absolutely no chance for someone like Stein, who is not serious and doesn't give a shit about winning, to make those gains. Which means I have to give an apology to the anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists like Namat Sadat, who want to pretend elsewise. Can Cornel West win? He has the same chance of winning as Kanye West. How about the PSL ticket? Okay, if you know there's a PSL ticket, you're too online. If a whole bunch of people abstain, will they just throw out the Constitution and try again? I have a friend in law school right now, so let me text him real quick. Oh, he told me to stop doing this because this bit is getting annoying. If Harris loses and Trump is elected, will disappointed liberals fall in line to the LARPy revolutionaries who claim to be the only true left? Will they do that before Trump starts trumping around as a J.D. Vance Heritage Foundation Project 2025 puppet? Pretty obviously not. The revolutionary left has not put in the work to build that sort of movement and seems to just assume embracing pain will cause people to join them and fall in line under their boots because they don't want to actually put in that work to convince anyone of anything. And that's clear if you have a conversation with one of them online. They just care about being an asshole. Okay, so the election will only result in either a Harris or a Trump presidency. We are not on the verge of a revolution, and none of the other candidates have a shot. So we have a machine where any action will result in the outcome H or T. Is either H or T promising to support Hamas? No, because while Trump is dumb, neither of them are that dumb. During the debate with Biden, Trump used Palestinian as an insult, however. The GOP platform says no one who is or supports jihadists will be admitted into the country. You probably know how conservatives in the US function. What do you think that means? Do you think any expression or support for the Palestinian people or any opposition to Israel's overuse of force would prevent someone from entering the US? That's what it sounds like to me. So if Trump won't be any better on Palestine than Harris and seems like he would actually be quite a bit worse, what is the math that's going on here? You get H or T, those are the two outcomes. Okay, but let's make this equation easier and more in line with your ideas. Let's say Trump and Harris would be equally horrible on Palestine and all foreign policy, Ukraine, Taiwan, Cuba, so on and so forth. But Trump promises mass deportations and illegal usage of the Alien Enemies Acts to accomplish those deportations and a rollback of queer rights. Conservatives are anti-abortion, pro-child labor, anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-free speech, anti-art, anti-protest, anti-education, anti-healthcare, anti-regulation, anti-green energy, and anti-climate control mitigation. Wow! It sounds like one of those options will harm vastly more people, and through that harm make it much harder to fight to lessen global harms and fundamentally change the systems here in the United States. I guess maybe I should steel man their argument a bit because everyone likes a man of steel, you know, like so strong, so hard and clean. So if we assume that a second Trump presidency would not be meaningfully different than his first, despite all evidence that it would be worse, we can calculate that he will cause harm and he will cause lasting damage, but ultimately will survive. DSA membership will go up again. More people will tune into Chapo Trap House and the D Program or whatever other dirtbag podcasts you prefer where people are just being rude dicks. And more importantly, Democrats will learn that Biden's handling of Israel is unacceptable. Genocide is a line in the sand, and they have to do better. The Democrats will be forced to pivot left on foreign policy and not simply domestic policy. Maybe we'll lift the embargo on Cuba. We'll get less bearish on China, and then, well, leftists kind of start disagreeing on foreign policy, with some thinking that imperialism is fine as long as the imperialist actor is anti-American. But the Democrats will learn a painful lesson, come out swinging into the next election, and together with the left destroy the Republican Party in 2028. Liberals will be willing to fight with all their might. Things will have to get worse before they get better. Or, alternatively, Trump will destroy the remnants of the Republican Party, and the Democrats will become a sort of catch-all centrist party, leaving room for PSL or DSA or some other small sect to become the second party, one where the left has actual true power. Now, is that going to happen? No, probably not. I mean, PSL is allegedly a sex cult, the Green Party has proven to be unserious, the American public is allergic to the word communist, and the American Communist Party doesn't seem to be doing anything to change that allergy. And DSA continues to shoot itself in the foot over and over again, like it has a very specific fetish. I am very sorry to say, having sex within your org saying that we have to commend Hamas kind of destroyed your political future. It's unfair, but that's kind of how it works. The American public aren't going to entertain you after that. You would have to squash the bad actors in IC, Red Star, Mug, make clear that your union busting was a shameful mistake that you are ashamed of, and build an atmosphere of being able to talk to each other online without acting like DSA members are the most vile creatures other DSA members can possibly imagine. You can't be massive dicks to each other and expect other people to want to join your organization. Will the Democrats pivot left if Harris loses in 2024? Will they conclude that foreign policy is of utmost importance? I don't know. What we do know is that abortion is a winning issue. It's insanely important to voters. We know that extreme anti-trans positions are a losing issue. So there is a chance that they continue to move left, or at least stay the field on social issues. Biden's attempts at forgiving student loans didn't really earn him any points with the left, and neither did his pulling out of Afghanistan. But there's a chance. There's a chance that liberals will grow more militant, angrier, more willing to be led by left-wing populists, promising the sort of hatred that the online far left loves, because populists are dumb and are easily bought in by pretend anger. But yeah, okay, there's a chance that the base will start to move left under a Trump presidency. There's a chance that the Democrats will take the threats and promises of the left more seriously moving forward. For that, Trump will cement his control of the judiciary. We'll witness how much of Project 2025 will pass his administration. We will see pregnant women die preventable deaths due to lack of reproductive care. We'll see increased attacks on queer people, including rollbacks of conversion therapy bans. Trans people may well have their entire existence criminalized. The showcase lack of care his judicial picks have for the First Amendment could well lead to an expansion of obscenity laws, which could lead to criminalizing porn and erotica in general. Education in this country will be thoroughly destroyed. Thousands upon thousands of people will be deported. We may well go to war with both Mexico and Iran. Russia will take Ukraine, and China will probably take Taiwan. Protesters will be beaten in the streets. The National Guard will carry out those mass deportations. Federal lands will be opened up for logging, mining, and drilling. Taxes and consumer prices will go up. If Project 2025 is whispering in his ear, children will get maimed working dangerous jobs. J.D. Vance, his VP pick, is a sexist asshole. Couches will be fucked. So, you get H or T. A Trump win might cause a policy shift within the Democratic Party. It is a gamble. A gamble that only costs Palestinian and American lives. Will it make the world better? There's a very slim chance for in the long run. but it'll definitely make it worse for a bit. Is it rational to choose a Trump presidency over a Harris one if you're anywhere on the left and actually care about other people? No, it's not. It only makes sense if your main goal is cruelty. DSMR 3, the cruelty of others. Let's talk slurs. I did a video a while back over Noah Schnapp, or rather because I don't really care about the kid one way or the other. That time, popular gay Twitter user Hey Jay called him a f***it and got thousands of likes for using a homophobic slur, but wokely. That entire video has my thoughts on the matter overall, but to sum it up really quickly for this one, saying that you are reclaiming something does not mean that you are actually reclaiming it in every instance. Using it for its slurage still makes it a slur. Using it with vitriol makes it a slur. Using it as a slur is weaponizing homophobia. Weaponizing homophobia is the same as saying that homophobia is a neutral thing that can be good when deployed against the bad gays. Saying the bad gays, trademark, deserve homophobia emboldens homophobes. Congrats, you just played yourself. So here's a test. Replace the slur in what you're saying with a different word. Does it make sense still? The tweet was, but that f***it Noah Schnapp still has a job? Sometimes we use f*** to just mean gay people. Hey f***s and hey gay can be the same thing. But that gay Noah Schnapp still has a job? Well, that sounds homophobic. What if we go, but that gay guy Noah Schnapp still has a job? Still sounds homophobic. Sometimes we use it to refer to our gay friends. But that bestie of mine Noah Schnapp still has a job? Well, that would actually be a funny tweet. OP seemed to want the Mean Girl internet points the original post got him, and this change doesn't seem to fit that. On top of the fact that random Twitter man probably does not know and is not friends with a young actor. Sometimes we use it to mean stereotypically feminine or flamboyant. It can be a stand-in for sissy. But that sissy Noah Schnapp still has a job? That sounds homophobic and sexist. But that flaming homosexual Noah Schnapp still has a job? Again, a funnier way of putting it, still homophobic. It's almost like the OP was not using in a reclaimed way. It's almost like he was using the slur as a slur because he wanted to use a homophobic slur. And to get celebrated for using said slur by mean girls on Twitter. It's almost like some of these people only care about internet points and being dicks. I mentioned a different tweet in part 1, so let's revisit it briefly. So you rainbow capitalism, girl power, yeah, slay f***s get to sleep easy. Is that reclamation? No, it's not. It is using a slur to use a slur, and then pretending that homophobia is somehow leftist. A lot of queer people online do this because using the F slur as a slur gets you a lot of internet points from people who would cheer at untucked fights on Drag Race like it's a sports game, and it's like, yeah, you be an asshole, no, you be an asshole, yeah, I love people being dicks. Matt Bernstein, who seems like a nice guy, uses this over and over for conservative and transphobic gay guys, calling them f***s over and over. When Sugar and Spice did a Starbucks ad, supposedly leftist people went insane on the internet due to the hallucination that was the Starbucks boycott. I have a video on that too, but to make that short, no, Starbucks had nothing to do with Israel. The boycott was based on misinformation and a desire to just be rude and wrong online and not actually listen or take in new information. In response to them doing that ad, a bunch of people called them fags over and fucking over again. Drag Race seems to really attract the type of people, viewers and queens alike, who like to use f*** as a slur against the bad gays who supposedly deserve homophobia. It's very reminiscent of all the supposedly progressive people who have been bringing back the R slur and using it liberally against anyone who disagrees with them on anything at any moment in time. It's almost like there are edgy reactionaries who want points for being edgy reactionaries and don't really care about anything. They just want to be cruel, and they need to be celebrated for their want to be cruel. I guess that trend deserves its own deep dive on a different day. Suddenly, some of this pushback against concern for queer rights makes sense. These aren't all people making deliberate, though mistaken, political calculations. Some of them are just edgelords who are probably homophobes embracing the homophobic future of a Trump presidency because they don't care and might actually prefer homophobic policies. An examination of these types of posts also reveals a heavy sense of resentment against queer people, gay men specifically, with the idea that if you put white gay men in front of a homophobic statement, you're suddenly absolved of all homophobia. Is homophobia rational? No. Is it acceptable? No. Will making the lives of queer people worse make the lives of Palestinian people better? No. Will embracing homophobia bring about communism? No. Will it win the moment for progressives? No. But will it at least make embarrassed conservatives who cosplay as leftists feel better? Maybe. Speaking of embarrassed conservatives, DSMR 4, the selfishness of others. To segue, here's a tweet on the Chapel Rowan of it all by DSA member Comrade Sanchez that uses a slur and accuses people of being narcissists. He said, "Fuck Kamala, yet fuck Trump a bit more too, so I'll vote Kamala if I have to and nothing else, and will protest her every day forever afterwards," is the mainstream youth opinion, but Hell's Kitchen dwelling with six-figure email jobs are too self-obsessed to get that. Isn't it so fun to call gay people who disagree with you the F slur? Wow, such reclamation. Heckin' good homophobia. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Oh, from my lawyer friend. I'm being sued for emotional damages for using the Doge meme in 2024. Well, I didn't use it. It was just oh, he hung up. So Comrade Sanchez is giving off homophobic vibes here, but it isn't just for the slur. If you spend time around ultra-left or campist places on the internet, you might have come across the idea that queerness and queer rights are bourgeois decadent. Or, to put it another way, the selfish designs of the evil rich in the West, trying to force the poor to capitulate to human rights. You might have seen people like Caleb Maupin claiming that being anti-imperialist necessitates being fine with homophobia. To claim gay rights are human rights and non-negotiable is apparently a weapon of the bourgeoisie. Oh no. Noted extremist who did actually bomb the Walmart, so I guess good for her in some way, Carla Walsh tweeted and then deleted, "I'll be the first to defend my queer people, but we have to stop pretending queerness, especially in the West, is inherently revolutionary. Some of y'all are some of the most liberal, individualist, decadent people holding the revolution back. Imperialism equals primary contradiction." According to Kala, caring about LGBT rights is selfish. If you don't want to be harmed, you are selfish. The screenshot she included in her tweet is of a guy who posted, "Not to belittle the importance of freedom in all aspects of life, but some of you think wearing a miniskirt is equal or even more important to fight for than stopping a genocide. Some think kissing their same-sex partner in public is equal if not more relevant than stopping a genocide. Some just want to party and not be bothered with a genocide." Did you notice all of the minimization he, and by extension, Kala pulled there? Drag, trans rights, being gender nonconforming, and being a woman able to wear what you want in public are melted down into the idea of wearing a miniskirt. Marriage, healthcare, the ability to exist free of discrimination, and existing as a queer person in public is all turned into kissing their same-sex partner in public. All of that is then thrown into a bag and called partying. Queer rights have become a party. It is selfish to party, after all. Parties are expensive and decadent and selfish. How dare you have a nice time? How dare you party? Don't you know there is evil in this world? Whether or not you have queer rights is apparently the same thing as whether or not you go get drunk at the club on a Thursday. Kala hasn't yet deleted this post, retweeted by fellow dumbass Q Anthony Ali, which puts LGBTQ plus rights in scare quotes, calls them Western frameworks, and claims not supporting Hamas is morally wrong, and you better get on board with any group who slaughters civilians and is rabidly anti-gay so long as they happen to oppose the West in some way, shape, or form. Now, why did Kala use scare quotes there? Why did she frame queer rights as Western? It's probably because Kala seems like a homophobe. In my video over leftist homophobia, I talked about her need to pretend that China isn't homophobic and how her and her fellow tankies have to dismiss the concept of human rights in general because otherwise some of their favorite shitty countries would have to face actual criticism. Like Russia's mistreatment of queer people and the CCP's entrenched sexism and homophobia. So let's connect a few threads together here because I am a gay man and so obviously I'm great at breeding. The people who claim it is selfish to care about gay rights, the people who call gay rights partying, the people who minimize gay rights, the people who scare, quote, gay rights, they all tend to frame it under the idea that queerness and queer rights are individualist decadence. They see joy in queerness and they hate that. Let's look at noted psychopath Suki's mom. She tweeted, "White Western queers, as derogatory as possible, trying to browbeat colonized people into supporting their fave girl-boss genocide demonstrates the hyper-individualist, decadent, selfish politic that has overtaken Western queer identity/culture." Suki is a homophobe. Jorge of the DSA-IC, who you may remember as being the one retweeting calls for ethnically cleansing all Israeli Jews out of Israel-Palestine, said of the 2024 election and people voting for Kamala, "Oh, what about X or Y domestic issue? So what you are saying is Palestinian lives matter less than American lives? This is objectively what the argument entails." No, Jorge, it isn't. But he knows this. It's just that being on the DSA-IC apparently requires one to be a bad faith actor and capable of engaging in actual politics. That's not true of everyone on the DSA-IC, but it does seem to be true of their leadership. So over and over, anti-voting far leftist people push the idea that queer people caring about and voting over queer rights is selfish. We already discussed how there are only two outcomes available come the end of the 2024 election, a Trump presidency or a Harris presidency. All of these people understand that, and they understand that a Trump presidency would be worse for everyone. They just don't care about that though. They care about getting internet points. Do you see how easy it is to claim someone else as being selfish? Except here's the thing. They aren't putting forward any idea or way to get what they want. If it is selfish to vote for queer rights, at least we will succeed in getting those and fighting for them. Will these people get a free Palestine through a Trump victory that will hurt queer people? No. But it makes them feel bad to have to think about the consequences of what they are pushing for, and they would rather not feel bad. This is, of course, all about their feelings. Everything is just about their feelings. No one who disagrees with them could ever be acting in good faith with good concerns. They are the main characters of the universe, after all. So this idea of queerness being a party, selfish, decadent, really rubs them wrong, because the idea that queer rights leads to celebration and happiness. They can't have that. Even before October 7th, a lot of these people made the same arguments. Securing gay marriage was bad because gay people became less likely to die in a revolution that wasn't happening. Class reductionist types view social issues as distraction from class warfare. Are they correct on that? No, not at all. It's very easy to see how you cannot secure economic freedoms without queer rights. They like to say marriage is trivial, but marriage in the US is tied up with insurance, banking, taxes, adoption, wills, estates, more and fucking more. Do you know how or why our elders fought so hard for gay marriage? When the AIDS epidemic ravaged this country in the 80s and 90s, queer people were turned away from the hospital rooms of their dying partners. Imagine your loved one is sick and dying and in pain from a disease the world is telling you is a punishment for your very being, for the two of you being in love, and you cannot sit beside them and hold their fucking hand. Not for anyone's health or safety, not because you might catch it from holding their hand, but because of homophobia, because of people who hate you for existing. Imagine then that they die from that disease without you there, and their next of kin despises gay people. You don't get to see their body, say goodbye. You don't get to go to the funeral or have a say in how or where they are buried. If you shared a house and it was under their name, it gets stolen from you. I have very little patience for this minimization that entirely ignores our history and the hard-fought battles that many people did not survive. Without non-discrimination laws, you could be fired for being gay or trans. Do you know the economic impact of that? You don't have any fucking money. How about conversion therapy? What's the economic impact? Because apparently everything has to be about economics. Well, being tortured sure does change how much you're going to have to spend on therapy for the rest of your life. It will affect your ability to find a partner, and obviously having a partner will increase your household wealth. That's, if you survive, by the way. Your economic outlook won't look too great if you can't work because you're a goddamn corpse. Charlie Markbrighter wrote an article for The Nation trying to both sides trans issues so as to convince people not to vote for Harris. His reasoning? Her policies would benefit wealthy trans people. And we're too hysterical about how Trump might harm trans people. Obviously, he's not going to do anything that bad. So that means the trans folk worried about this election are the selfish elites who can't care about anyone else besides themselves. Donald Trump is a transphobe. Project 2025, staffed and advised primarily by Trump officials, calls for the criminalization of trans people. Project 2025 wants it to be illegal to talk about or make art about trans people. Project 2025 thinks it is a sex crime for trans people to be around children or for children to know anything about gender, expression, or identity. The two sides are very clearly not the same. But by painting worry about trans issues this election as selfish and elite, Markbrighter gets to close his eyes to the harm that would be caused by a Trump presidency. Is it selfish to care about gay rights? Is it selfish to care about trans rights? To recognize that there are only two options, a Harris administration or a Trump administration, and that one would be far worse for everyone? No. But accusing everyone else of being selfish sure is a great way to demonize anyone who disagrees with you. DSMR5, Catastrophizing. You need demons if you're going to have a rapture. Sorry, I mean a totally real heckin' revolution that's definitely on the verge of happening and would definitely only result in a communist victory without untold suffering and hardship. If everyone is suffering, then they are more likely, the idea goes, to engage with political violence. That's why people are pretending there's an option on the table to exchange queer rights for Palestinian statehood. Because they desire queer rights to fall away so that more people will suffer. So that more people will be ready for revolution. DSA co-chair Megan Romer has tweeted about how there was revolutionary sentiment during Trump's presidency that DSA failed to effectively act on and funnel into a real revolution. Were we on the verge of a revolution? No. Is DSA in the position now to lead a revolution tomorrow? Also no. So we aren't aiming towards an actual thing people think will actually happen. We're looking at a holy violence, a rapture. If you imagine these people as embarrassed evangelical conservatives, things start to make a bit more sense. You don't call queerness decadent and individualistic because you're just a homophobe. It's also because you're an ascetist. Ascetics believe that self-denial is the only good. You must deny yourself pleasure. You must suffer. Suffering is holy. Suffering is repentance. But it's not. It's just suffering. A desire to increase suffering, to inflict it on people as punishment for not having bought into the revolution you make no effort to convince people to join, is evil. Sorry about it. This seems to be a form of catastrophizing, a defense mechanism where you make something as bad as it can possibly be. You say Trump will be worse? You have evidence that he will harm more and more people, but I don't want to confront that, so I'm going to say there's no way Palestinians can have it worse than they do right now. Maybe this is because I'm primarily a horror writer, but that seems to be a harsh lack of imagination about the worst humanity has to offer. Can things get worse for Palestine? Yeah, by quite a bit. Trump could encourage Israel to go in harder on its worst impulses. It could encourage Saudi Arabia to step harder on Yemen. His administration could declare war with Iran. If it goes to war with Iran, a Trump administration could conceivably claim that Hamas is an extension of Hezbollah and put American troops on the ground in Gaza. If American troops engage in Gaza, Trump has an easier path to rounding up Palestinians living in America under the Alien Enemies Act, which he has promised to use to fuel his mass deportation wish. If the Houthis respond to increased violence in Palestine by attacking more civilian ships willy-nilly while pretending that they're doing it for Palestine and, people buy that, Trump may turn around and say attacking U.S. citizens is grounds for war and attempt to rally Congress to support that declaration. Things are always capable of getting worse. The Middle East is not currently the site of a global war fought by the strongest nuclear powers. It could be. It could always be worse. Conclusion. Despite the past few election cycles being filled with certain leftists crying foul over people vote shaming them, trying to make them go for the Democrats through moralizing, they've now taken to their own form of vote shaming. To vote for Harris is selfish. It's supporting genocide. To care about queer rights is selfish. They know there's not a revolution coming. And they know the Green Party and PSL have no shot at winning. They know it's either going to be Harris or Trump. Because despite how they might portray themselves, they're not idiots. But they're trying their level best to convince the rest of us elsewise. Anywho, did I successfully diagnose myself as a narcissist because I care about domestic policy and the differences between Trump and Harris and recognize that one of those two will be the president in 2025 and that I've read Trump and the GOP's proposed policies of harm? I mean, sometimes I think I'm cute, so who's to say? If there's one thing to take away from this, it's that it's totally healthy for all of us to be so angry and quick to call everyone else self-absorbed monsters, especially when it's playing into the elite effect stereotype of ye ode homophobia. Oh, sorry, my loyal friend is calling me. Hello? No, you called me. No, yeah, I had to end on this bit as like a callback. Get it? That low-effort punt has reserved me a spot on death row. Okay. Sorry, kittens. Gotta go. Daddy's got a date with Zip Zap Zop. Bye.